G'day guys, welcome back to Motorrats Hunting and Outdoors. Today I thought we'll have a bit of a chat about something that a lot of time we overlook, and that's our four-wheel drive when we're going hunting. You know, we think about our rifles and our other gear when we go away, but one of those things that we don't look at the most, and that's our four-wheel drive. You know, and keeping them serviced. A lot of us use them for daily use and then go on longer trips. So the big thing is with this my rig's a 1996 GQ Patrol, or for you guys in the States, Y60. Been in the family since brand new, this one, and only done about 330,000 Ks. But being it's at that amount of kilometres, we decided to rebuild the injector pump and get the injectors done, and also fit a turbo on it. So we're just down here with Andrew from Berrima Diesel. It's finally good to meet you, mate.
How you been, mate? Going good?
Yeah, good, mate, good.
Happy to get your rig back?
Yeah, absolutely. Went hanging out to try and pick it up, so.
That's good.
But yeah, so we're down here to try and get that done on the old girl and give her a bit of lease on life. So just quickly, Andrew, how long you guys been in business doing the diesel, mate?
Pretty long time. So Dad started his apprenticeship with Bosch way back before 1960. When he was finished, he came out to Australia in 1960.
Yeah, right.
So I think about 57 or 1956 when he actually began his time in the diesel scene.
Yeah, right.
And he must have been a bit of a smart bugger because they sent him out on a Super Constellation plane, first class all the way.
That's all right then.
Barely a teenager. I mean, he was only about 19 or 20.
Jeez.
And got out here and was with Bosch for many years and then just stayed in the industry pretty much.
Right.
And I think we moved down here in about the 80s, started the 80s there and cranked the business up and got into it forever ever since. And I guess I came into the business and then my sons are in the business. So the German Opa or grandfather is very happy because the family business continues and it's very traditional for those guys.
Yeah, that's right. And you don't see many family businesses like yourself these days too, you know?
Yeah, well, look, the thing is we enjoy it, you know, every day is a bit of fun. You get some real headache jobs, there's no doubt about it. But that's the challenge, and we love it. And,
I'm sure this old girl's giving you a little bit of a headache from time to time.
Well, I mean, look, this is really Dad and my era, this machine here. I was a lot younger and so was Dad when these things came out in about 88, you know, and they've been around for a long time, they're Td42 now. But look, they're a great solid machine, as you know. A good one, and we're probably over, you know, investing our money in them, but I think it's a good positive investment.
That's
because
right.
you know, this thing will be still going at 500,000.
That's it.
600,000. I mean, we look at some of the newer ones now, and you know, 250,000. It might have been looked after well, but you're up for 10 grand in injectors in some of the big V8s now. And you know, I like these.
Costs are really starting to get up there.
You think of what you've probably gotten for a reasonable bit of coin you put into it. Turbo system, a pump rebuild, the injectors done. That's major for a long time now. Just do your oils, filters, and that'll keep everything running for a while.
So what would you recommend, mate? In, say, you know, being a customer coming in to see you, wanting to get a turbo system fitted, what would the sort of thing you'd be looking at doing? So, you know, like, obviously, you know, you'd want to look at servicing your injectors and make sure they're working.
I think that's probably the main thing. You know, we take it that people are coming to us, even the people that contact us via Facebook, wherever. They're usually looking after their vehicles. So that's already probably a given that they're doing the oils and filters, and they've got a pretty well serviced vehicle. So something major for us as experts to do, correct the injectors, run through the pump settings. At times the pump needs rebuilding like yours because it's got the mileage, etc. When you do the injectors, I mean getting them spraying correctly, think of them like a Mortine can or maybe a really fine steam coming out there. You want them just misting. So that oily diesel will burn in a hurry and burn cleanly. Because as we say, and we've said forever, diesel shouldn't smoke. They should be really quite clean. But nowadays, of course, every Tom, Dick and Harry's a diesel tuner and they want soot pouring out the back. But little do they know, it might look fancy, but it actually doesn't do extra power. It's doing damage. So in the end, you've got a clean running diesel here. And of course, that groundwork's probably a good start. Then before we do things like turbos. We don't always have to rebuild things before the turbo, like injectors and pump, but usually the injectors are unknown. It's very recommended to do at least the pump servicing and tuning in the injectors. If there's leaks and everything, okay, you know that it might need a rebuild on the pump. But the motor, well, we know that's good. There's no blow-by when it's hot. First thing to check, when the motor's hot and you've been for a good run, undo that oil filler cap. If you've got steam coming out pressure, it's finished.
You know,
I haven't seen that yet. You know, unless it somehow got towed in on a Td42 or a 18Z, I really haven't seen that. You know, again, people that bring in a vehicle, they already know and feel that it's good condition. Can I turbo it? And we'll do a few checks, mate, it's ready for that. Do these other things as well, so you covered all bases.
And I guess that comes down to some of those other myths too that you hear. You know, you put a turbo on, and all of a sudden they're going to start overheating, and they call the Td42 the kettle. You know, and a lot of that stuff comes down to, you know, one of the main things, like you showed in one of your videos before, the viscous hub. Not having oil in that viscous hub
Big one.
is one of those things that will turn and make these overheat like crazy.
So many times we've seen where they've come in, you know, running hot, and that washes the heat off, you know, fairly quickly. They get over the hill and coasting again. Like we sort of say, your cooling system's doing okay. You're not getting the air to it. Oh, but we're doing 100. You'd be surprised with all this stuff on the front.
All the stuff just
Yeah,
blocks airflow.
It is. It blocks airflow dramatically. So of course you need a fan that works. Viscous hub, as they get older, is a bit of a big area to look at.
So what other sort of stuff do you guys do here as well, mate? I noticed you got quite a few new rigs, modern rigs laying around.
Yeah, so we've got one over on the side here, getting sort of an intercooler upgrade and doing one of the DPGXs and custom ECU tuning, pretty much anything diesel. So, you know, we don't delve really much into engines, even though we've got a block sitting apart here from one of the Sun's vehicles. We're playing tinker on our own, no doubt. When it comes to engines, it's just time. You've got to be experts in that as well and just concentrate on that. And he'll, of course, usually sublet injectors out to us for stuff like that. So engines, no. General servicing of diesels, yes. So meaning the body of the vehicle going through normal servicing. But injectors, pump calibration, that sort of stuff. We really try and just specialise and stay there in that diesel-only scene.
Yeah, right, awesome. All right, well, we might grab the camera and give a bit of a look in the engine bay here, what you guys have, you and Baden and the boys have been doing over the last week or so.
That's it, putting in a box of tricks.
All right. So we'll just have a bit of a look here and just give us a bit of a rundown on what you've been putting in, mate.
Cleaner maybe in there, because normally you have your air cleaner sitting across the motor here, and the centre, in the middle of the air cleaner, is a hole that goes on top of the inlet manifold. So it's the air going directly into the engine. Once we turbocharge it, we need to bring the boosted air over in a pipe onto the inlet manifold, so that now means the air cleaner has to go somewhere else. We've got sort of a cast aluminium air cleaner housing that mounts up with brackets, and it just luckily fits in behind that piping. It fits in neat and tidy, so it sort of frees up the view of the engine here. Oil filters for Nissan owners are much easier to get to. You know, they used to have the fuel filter over there many moons ago, and when they moved it here, that became a bit of a headache to get the oil filters with the air cleaner. So if anything, the vehicle's a bit easier to service as far as that goes. I mean, obviously your pump's down in there.
Got the new pump rebuilt down in
pumps sort of
there. There's the sort of bit of darkness, but so
and the rest of it all sort of lives over this side.
I'll have a bit of a look at the best part of all of it.
You've got air coming in through your snorkel, goes in through to your air cleaner, and obviously you keep your original type of element in here, which is, as you can see, is a good sized box. And then that goes in piping down to your turbocharger,
which you can't quite see there in the darkness. But
think of your turbo as sort of a, you know, like any pump, a water pump or whatever. It's sort of sucking and pushing. So, you know, it's engines are not really good at sucking. Nothing really is, but they're great at building pressure, and that's where turbos come in good for a diesel. So once the air gets compressed by the turbo, it of course goes over into the engine. And people go, oh, it's forcing air in. Well, you've got to remember, at a couple of thousand revs per minute, there's lots of induction strokes per second going on. Now, air doesn't move very quickly, but at least having it boosted right to the inlet valve means when that opens, it sucks it, no, believe me or not, it pulls air in from there. It's not forcing and jamming air in, but now you're only getting it from there, you can get a full charge, whereas normally it's got to suck air all the way through all this piping, through that square manifold down in past the valve, and that's really hard. So for any diesel, we always say turbos are brilliant because you get so much air to them. Once you get a lot of air, they run clean and lean, and the petrol tuners, particularly the guys over in the States, are probably going, lean, that's dangerous. With diesel, we want lean mixtures because it's cool. With petrols, it's of course hot, total opposite to a diesel.
Yeah, completely.
So putting on the turbo, that's the way to do it. You get air to the engine.
So there we have it, guys. You heard it from the horse's mouth. Andrew down here at Berrima Diesel. So if you're looking to try and get a system like this done, and I highly recommend it, I'm looking forward to driving it. I'll tell you, I'm really hanging to get in there and taking it for a run. I've been hanging for a week to drive this old girl. It's been a dream of mine for a long time to finally get a turbo on a Td42. So it'll be well worth the drive home, I can assure you.
Ready for the next holiday trip.
Yeah, well that's it. And the big test will be, you know, the next time I turn and take the camper out. You know, like by the time this thing as it sits now, with all my tools and the drill system in the back, is around about 3.2 tonne as it sits. So, and then, you know, the camper on top of that again, it's 2.5 tonne. So then by the time you stick your hunting gear and everything
All the
else in on
goodies.
top of that, you know, you're looking at another half a ton on top of that again. So
So we love camping with all the goodies,
Yeah.
isn't it? We, you know, love
That's
our
right.
luxuries and
You know.
goodies, and that all adds a bit of weight.
And there's nothing worse, like, you know, last time I toured and took it, the big testers, I go up to Tamworth quite a lot every year for the Country Music Festival. And the hills going into Tamworth through Ulladulla and that sort of area, telling the camper, you know, you're back to third and it's screaming its tits off at 3,000
Getting
RPM.
nowhere, yeah.
You're getting nowhere at 80k an hour, where at least might get fourth gear and about 100k an hour still pulling up the hills without too much of a drama, you know.
Well,
like,
that's the thing. I mean, you had about 300, something, a bit over 300 newton meters before, and you've got well over 400 now.
yeah,
It's
that's a
100
big
odd newton meter
improvement.
gain, and it's pretty much from the start of the dyno test, which is at very low revs, you're ahead all the way. So where
yeah.
you said you had to rev it before to make it work, I mean, you can choose wherever you want to have those
Yep.
revs. You've got a lot more
And that's
to
the key, you know, with those variable, you know, bladed turbos too. You know, you've got that boost instantly off the get-go, or you're constantly making boost at what, 2,000 RPM.
That's correct. Yeah,
So,
pretty
you
much.
know,
Well, you're at peak boost by 2,000.
Yeah.
You're probably producing even a pound by 1,200 revs.
Yeah.
You know, from down
So
below.
you know, you've got that power when you're in that rev range. When you're coming to the bottom of a hill and you really need it, you've got it there just to bring the power on and you know, and just keep keep going, rather than have to really get a run up. You know,
Rev
doing over the speed limit at over
Exactly.
maybe 120 to make it up a hill at 80k an hour with it revving its backside off. At least now you can just, you know, put the throttle on and
We've
cruise on up
always,
the hill.
we've always sort of said it's about a gear to a gear and a half better.
And that's a big difference.
That makes a big difference, particularly in the rev range.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're at 3,400 revs, where you're hanging on nicely at 2,200.
Yeah.
There's a
And
big
you're not chewing as much diesel. You know, everything's a lot more
better
efficient.
economy, everything
Yeah.
kicks in for sure.
Yeah. So,
Oh, you'll enjoy it.
looking forward to it, mate. I tell you. All right. Well, thanks very much, Andrew.
No problems at
And,
all.
Mate, all the best.
Enjoy the trip, and we'll keep in touch.
Will do, mate. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this. I'll just yet to do the 0 to 60 comparison and the 80 to 100 comparison that I did when it was naturally aspirated. So we'll put that up, and I'll show you the difference, what it was doing from 0 to 60, and then again from 80 to 100k an hour. I'll probably do that tomorrow because it's getting a little bit dark at the moment, and my cameraman is sitting in the car ready to go home. She's been okay, guys. So at the moment she's naturally aspirated, so I'm going to turn around and simulate pulling out of a the side of the road like I am at the moment, and we're going to see how quick she can get up to 60k naturally aspirated. And then I'll then do one from 80 kilometres an hour to 100 kilometres an hour, just to simulate merging to freeway speed, and we'll see what she does and see how long it takes her to get there. All right, so I'll just turn around and get ready to get the wife here to get the stopwatch ready. So on your go, honey. When I say one, we'll go. Okay, we'll go. Okay. So what would that take?
10.56.
So almost 11 seconds to go from 0 to 60 kilometres an hour. So as you can see, they're not that quick, the old girl. Alright guys, so we're at 80k an hour now. We're going down a bit of a downhill. We're going to put the foot down and see how long it takes to get to 100. Alright, so you get ready for the stopwatch?
Yeah.
Okay, go. Okay, we're 100 now.
9 seconds.
Okay, so it takes 9 seconds to go from 80k an hour to 100k an hour. Now that's naturally aspirated. Obviously, once the turbo system goes on and the injectors and the injector pump gets rebuilt, I'd imagine that would be considerably lower. But the main thing we're getting the turbo fitted for on this old girl is to tow our van. Our van weighs 2.5 tonne, our off-road camper. And you know, this old girl, static with all my tools and my normal gear that's in the back, is around about 3.3 tonne on every given day when I'm driving. So you add that together, plus, you know, probably another half a tonne of gear again for when you're going away on a long trip, and it's a considerable amount of weight. So you know, it'll make a big difference. One thing I've noticed with the old girl is on the hills, towing in 4th or 5th gear, on steep hills you've really got to drop back to 3rd and sometimes even 2nd gear. So hopefully we won't have to do that so much and work the old girl so hard once the turbo's on. Anyway, we'll jump back in the rig once I come down and pick it up in a few days' time, and we'll see how she goes 0 to 60 and then 80 to 100 then. Alright guys, we'll catch you when we go down and pick her up. Alright guys, so we've been down and we've had the turbo system fitted now, so now we're going to do that 0 to 60 to simulate, you know, pulling out from dead stop, taking off into traffic, and just see what a bit of a difference she makes now 0 to 60. So, alright, you ready? Are you, alright, we'll go now. Yep. Alright, so we've just gone from basically 11 seconds, 0 to 60, to 9.3 seconds. So that's, you know, that's a big difference of what, basically a good 2.5 seconds difference from 0 to 60. But you know, down low you don't notice the pickup as much down low. Where you really notice the difference with the turbo system, I found coming home, is those highway speeds where you're going from 80 to 100. So we'll now stop the video now that we know that's what we're doing, 0 to 60, and we'll get to a spot now where we can do 80 to 100, and we'll see what the difference is there. Alright, so we'll see you again soon. Alright guys, so now we'll do 80 to 100 just to show what the difference is, you know, what it is now when you're getting up the highway speed. So I'm currently at 80k an hour, and I'll just get ready to hit the stopwatch. So we'll hit the stopwatch and we'll start now. Okay. Okay, 5.5 seconds as opposed to 9.19 seconds. So again, it goes to show that big difference when you're actually in that range with the turbo starting to make boost. Pulling out on the highway speeds, it's where it's really making the power. So it starts to come on boost around 1800 RPM, but by 2000 RPM you've pretty much got all the boost and you've got all the power. So it makes a big difference in torque. It's making an extra 135 Newton meters of torque and an extra 20 kilowatts of power over what it was from factory. Now, our total power was 75 kilowatts after the tune and the turbo fitted. Factory is actually 85 kilowatts, but given taking the gearing and the fact that I've got a much bigger tyre, if I was to put the factory size tyres back on, put it back on the dyno, it would be more around that 100 kilowatt to 110 kilowatt mark over the 85 kilowatts from standard. So a massive improvement from standard. And that's mainly really what we're chasing here. We want the torque, as I said in the previous video, with naturally aspirated. This thing I'm going to be pulling the camper most of the time at 2.5 tonne. The vehicle as it sits now, without anything in it other than my rear draw system and my tools in the draw system and spares and bits and pieces, is at about 3,300 kilos. So add another half a tonne on that in gear in the back, clothes and stuff for camping. You're roughly around about that 3.5 tonne mark, plus 2.5 tonne with the camper. So it should make a huge difference, about a gear to a gear and a half difference when towing the van uphill. So rather than having to drop back to third gear on long steep hills and being back to third gear and it revving its arse out and making only about 80 kilometres an hour, really working the engine hard, we should be up around fourth gear at about 100 kilometres an hour to still be able to pull that 100k an hour on the 100k zone up the hill without an issue. Before I got this done, driving, anyone knows New South Wales and Australia, I know Mooney and Mooney Hills, I could never sit on fifth gear at over Mooney Bridge and sit on 100, 110 going up the hill. So I'd be either back to fourth or third, and I'd have to do 100 speed and do 140 kilometres an hour across the bridge to get the run off up the hill to be back to fourth gear to sit on about 90 to 100k an hour. Now I can quite easily leave it in fifth gear, be sitting at 110 at the bottom of the bridge and accelerate to 140 if I wanted to. That is the big difference. So that pulling the van will be remarkable. He'll be second to none. So, all right, guys. So there you have it. It's quite a big increase from 0 to 60 and 80 to 100. And where it's notably noticed the most is, like I say, that's freeway speeds. And this setup is put on and tuned mainly to be reliable for towing the camper. But one thing the boys at Berrima and I didn't talk about the other night was what sort of boost pressures that this will be running. So we'll go over to the dyno page in a minute, and I'll run through the power on the dyno graph and the boost that it's running. Berrima Diesel sell these systems around the world, so if you've got a Y60 Patrol for you viewers overseas, you can order these from Berrima Diesel. They'll send them to you, and then it's just a matter of having your diesel tuner adjust your pump settings, and probably look at rebuilding your injectors. As Andrew was saying, it's one of the most detrimental things really, to make sure that those injectors are doing the job, and atomising that diesel fuel. So we'll get over and have a bit of a chat about that on the dyno page, but I'll just give you a quick look over the engine bay here in a second. And since we didn't have much light the other night to talk about it, I've had it back home for a week now, so I've had it for a good run. The big test will be when I put the camper on the back and go for a run once this COVID-19 crap is all over and done with. So I'll just turn and pause the camera now, and I'll show you in around the engine bay, and I'll show you the rest of the truck. You're hard pressed to find an old GQ or a Y60 in as good as condition as this old girl. As I said, it's been in the family since brand new. Father had it for 21 years, serviced it regularly every 5,000 Ks, and I've done the same since. It was completely standard when he owned it. Since then I've set it up for touring with lockers and winch and lights and all the gear, roof basket and a few other goodies. So we'll just pause the video and pop the bonnet. We'll give you a bit of a look around underneath the bonnet of the turbo system again, and then I'll give you a quick look around the inside in the car and the outside, and yeah, we'll wrap it up. Right. So we'll start here over the front of the engine, and as Andrew said the other night, you've got a nice big airbox, cast aluminium airbox, which houses the original factory air filler type element, so you don't have to worry about chasing up another aftermarket or modified type air filter element. Your standard service one goes straight in there. And then being that it's a water-cooled turbo, you have your intake here straight off the thermostat housing with braided line that comes straight down to the turbo. Now that we can actually see the turbo, it's a wastegated turbo, as you can only just make out there. The turbo itself is a Mitsubishi Td42 Turbo, and it also has your braided oil lines that run directly from your block, from the factory position. They just pull the screw out, fit the aftermarket braided line into there, which also lubricates the turbo. And again, it's a Mitsubishi Td42 Turbo, and we have our dump pipe, which plumbs into a 3-inch mandrel bent exhaust system, which I already had pre-fitted to the car prior. So yeah, very clean installation and setup. And then if we come to this side, look down the center, it's very hard to make out, but the injectors are all been brand new and rebuilt, ultrasonic bathed and everything else, so they're brand new. And then as we come around again, like I said, we had the injector pump replaced in this one. So the original injector pump was leaking quite a fair bit. So as you can see there, we've got a brand new Bosch injector pump. So that's supplying plenty enough fuel, and that'll do that reliably for the next 20 odd years. Also, what we didn't show in the prior video, because I had it in the car, in the wife's car, ready to fit it up, as I did, because I couldn't get hold of a filter prior to taking it to Berrima. But this vehicle normally runs a pre-filter, which is a Cummins truck style filter with a pre-filter. You can't quite see it, but there's a glass bowl at the bottom where you can drain it. You always should run a pre-filter in your diesels, especially with the way diesel fuel is. Some those outback fuel stations are quite renowned to occasionally pick up a bit of water. So we'll just have a quick look around the old girl. As you can see, she's quite a clean old truck. And then we'll just have a quick look inside. So as you can see, we've got 344,000 kilometres on the clock. It had 343,000 before I took it down, naturally aspirated. But again, as you can see, she's a pretty clean old girl in here. She's had a pretty good life. It's been well looked after. But yeah, so we'll just fire the old girl up. I've since installed boost gauge and EGT gauge. So like I said, at 12 psi boost with EGTs under heavy load, no more than 450 degrees, which is in quite a safe range. You know, at that range, if we wanted to, we could probably try and put another few more pounds of boost in it, but being that we want it reliable and we don't want too much strain on the engine, at 12 psi, that's making plenty enough power to do us. So what we'll do is I'll show you the graph, but we'll just give the old girl a kick in the guts. She's cold at the moment. She hasn't been started this morning, so starts right up and nice and quiet, except for my thrust race bearing, which is always dry and noisy, being that I've taken it off road a bit. So as you can tell, you know, the rockers are one of the things that the boys from Berrima Diesel adjust as well as part of the service. So you know, because she was quite rattly when we first took her in, because she hadn't been done for a few years. Been about 6 or 7 years since I'd last adjusted them. But so there you have it, guys. It's turned the old girl into a really ready to go touring vehicle. I've no hesitations in packing this thing up and travelling all the way around Australia and do it reliably. So all right, there you have it. We'll just turn around and set the camera back up, and I'll turn around and switch over to the dynograph, and we'll show you the dynograph, and then yeah, we'll wrap up the video. Okay, guys. So as you can see here by the graph, we've got a massive increase in both torque mainly and power. So this was the original naturally aspirated run. So naturally aspirated, it was making 330 newton meters of torque at 40 kilometers per hour, and it was making a 57.2 kilowatts at 88 kilometers per hour. Factory in the Td42 on standard size tyres is 85 kilowatts at the engine. So, you know, really with the 33-inch tyres, with the gearing that it now has because of the larger tyres, you know, that 57 kilowatts is, you know, probably a good 10 kilowatts shy of what you know, it should be if I had the factory size tyres on it. And then when you go up to the turbo graph with the tune, we're now making 453.6 newton meters of torque, which is up 135 newton meters of torque, and that's at 58 kilometers per hour. So as you can see, you know, you're making more torque and you're making it and more kilometers per hour over factory. And then when you go to power, we're up to 76 kilowatts, which is almost a 20 kilowatt increase over the factory naturally aspirated, and that's at 82 kilometers per hour as opposed to 88 kilometers per hour. So, you know, you're making a whole lot more power and a whole lot more torque, and where it matters. You know, if you have a look at the graph here, you can see here basically at the rev range. So here is your rev range. Okay, and it just shows you, you know, even from the very get-go, how much torque and how much power you're making from factory, and that's where it means all the difference. You know, I've found when you're at about 1800 RPM, you start to make boost, which is about 1 pound to 2 pound at 1800 RPM. By the time you get to 2200 RPM, you're making a full 12 pounds of boost. You know, and you're right in that torque range where you're you know, you hit the bottom of a hill in 5th gear and you're sitting at around about 2000 RPM. You're already making close to 5 pounds of boost at that stage. So it has no struggles whatsoever to just keep pulling on power and having quite an ease to you know, to pull power going up a hill, rather than before having to drop back to 4th and sometimes even 3rd. Now we can stay in 5th gear. We've got the power curve where we need it, and especially for this application I put on this is mainly for towing. So and that's what these boys at Berrima mainly tune. You know, that low pound load boost setting to 12 psi, mainly to give you that power down low for towing a camper and towing it reliably. That's the key thing. You know, we can crank this thing up to 18 and 20 pounds of boost, not a problem, and even more with how healthy the engine is. But at that point, you start to lose reliability. You start to gain heat, and you're looking at intercoolers, and you're putting more strain on the engine. So as it sits there, it's about a 35 to 40% increase in power, which is perfect for what we want. So then we come down here to our show our torque and our air fuel ratio. So as you can see right here, it's quite fat all the way through. It's very, very rich and naturally aspirated. As Andrew was saying, when you start to incorporate boost into the engine, you start forcing more air to the inlet valve, and that represents there by the amount of lean mixture and the lean airflow ratio that you get. So that's the big key. You know, it's not about turning cramming as a shit ton of boost into the engine. It's about giving it that little bit more extra air that the engine needs to make the reliable power. So again, that's a big increase. So all right, we'll switch back over and I'll have a few last words, and then we'll try and finish up the video. So again, thanks to Andrew and Baden and the boys at Berrima Diesel for doing the work on the truck. I've had it home for about a week now, and it's running really well. So so there you have it. She's back now. Like I said, I've had it back now for a week. Been running absolutely great, and highly recommend having it done if you've got an old Td42 Patrol, and whether it be a GU Patrol or a Y61, Y62, Y60 for you guys over in the States. It's well worth doing, that's for sure. Even over the factory Td42 Turbo in the GU, it's a much smaller turbo with the factory turbo. So again, this is a more efficient turbo, and it makes a massive gain over the factory, and even more so from naturally aspirated. So highly recommended, and we'll catch you all again soon. And as always, guys, safe and happy hunting, and take care.